Technology Teatime, where we remind ourselves and educators around the world how we use technology to increase connections between us and our students and each other. Today's special guest is Laura Gambino. Dr. Gambino has a wealth of expertise in education and technology. She is the co-developer of the Catalyst for Learning ePortfolio website. She's the Dean for Assessment in Technology and Professor for Information Technology here at Gutman Community College, CUNY. Laura, welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you for stopping by today and giving us a few minutes of your time.
Thanks,
I know
Kristina.
you're very busy. Can I pour you some tea?
I would love some tea.
It's very
My favorite. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
So, Laura,
Yes.
tell us what we mean when we say social and reflective pedagogy. These sound great, but what does it really mean to practice them?
So let's start with the idea of reflective pedagogy. Reflection to me is making meaning of an experience. So we have students complete assignments and activities, and those are great, but what we really want them to do is stop and think about what they learned from those activities. So reflection gives them the opportunity to do that. And so we use ePortfolio as the space for them to do their reflection. And when we think about reflective pedagogy, we've used a framework developed by Carol Rogers, who built off of the work of John Dewey. And it describes reflection in a number of different ways. There's reflection as connection, where students are making connections between either, material in different courses, or they're connecting what they do in the classroom with what they're doing in an experiential activity, or maybe experiences they've had in their life. She also talks about reflection as an attitude towards change, helping students see themselves as learners. And she talks about it also as reflection as systematic and disciplined, where they're doing this kind of over time in a very structured way to help them understand their learning.
Right, because we often think of reflection as some kind of musing kind of thing, but it isn't in this context, right? It's very structured.
Right, it's very structured. It's not that kind of touchy-feely, mushy thing, but it can be very structured within a discipline. So, we all use reflection in our everyday practices with our students, but when we talk about reflective pedagogy, we're just kind of making it more visible. So in computer science, for example, we use a structured process where students reflect on how they solved a problem. Or in biology or chemistry, when students complete their lab report, in that final section where they're talking about what worked well, what challenges they had, and what they would do differently, that's actually reflection. So we're already doing it, but we use the term reflective pedagogy to help us be more aware of it as educators and making sure that we're providing students with the opportunities to make meaning from these experiences.
Okay, and technology helps us do that how? Because a lot of times we think of technology as not promoting this kind of connection and reflection, but kind of distancing ourselves from that.
Right, that's a great question. So the ePortfolio, because it exists kind of outside of any one course and stays with the student across their entire time while they're at Gutman, it really helps them kind of make those connections and see their own learning over time. So they can look back and make connections with what they did in a previous course or something they did on their internship and see how they're growing and how they've improved. The other thing is the fourth aspect of Carol Rogers' framework brings us into this idea of social pedagogy, which is reflection in community. We also often think of reflection as kind of this solitary process, something we do on our own, private in our journal. But ePortfolio can help us do this in a more public forum because we know learning happens in a social environment. Learning doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in community with others. So a colleague of mine, Randy Bass, coined the term social pedagogy, where he says we actually construct understanding and knowledge when we communicate it to a more authentic audience, to someone other than ourselves. And so the ePortfolio can be that venue where students construct their knowledge and understanding and communicate it to an external audience. And that external audience can be a faculty member, but it can also be their classmates or even someone outside of the college altogether, maybe somebody in an industry they're interested in working in. And so it provides students the opportunity to kind of collaborate and work together and communicate something out to a different audience.
Okay, fantastic. And that's, that supports our goals of what we're doing here too, That's wonderful. Can you tell us a story maybe about how some of your students have benefited in using the technology and this kind of social pedagogy that you're talking about, and this reflective?
Well, I can give you just a very simple example from one of my experiences when I was teaching programming logic back at Tunxis, where our students had to kind of post their reflection on their design process for a specific project they were working on. And there was one girl in the back who's kind of very, very quiet. She was actually the only girl in the class at the time. And she kind of did her own thing, and she had this amazing e-portfolio, and she wrote these wonderful reflections about what she did. And one of the pieces of the assignment was students had to go look at each other's e-portfolios and comment on them. And so the students in her group started looking at her portfolio, and all of a sudden she had this whole slew of comments about how great her portfolio was and her reflection and the work she was doing, and they didn't know that she was also interested in graphic design and all of this stuff. And then it really helped her kind of feel more confident in the class. And it helped her kind of come out of her shell, because all of a sudden everybody was asking her, how did you do this? Can you help me? And it helped her grow as a scholar, because it gave her the ability to kind of see herself in this community of computer scientists.
Wow, what a wonderful story. So if somebody wanted to learn more about how to integrate reflection and create this environment using social pedagogy in their classrooms, where would they go? How could they learn more?
The first place I would send them would be to the Catalyst for Learning ePortfolio Resources and Research website, and I think we'll have the URL at the end of this video. And there's a couple of essays in there. One is on reflective pedagogy, and another is one written by Randy Bass about social pedagogy itself. And in the site, in addition to the essays, there's also about 100 or so actual examples from faculty across the country who have used reflection and social pedagogy in their courses. The other thing I would recommend is to sign up for one of your professional development workshops, where we'll really have a chance to think about reflective pedagogy, and not just learn about kind of the theory of reflective pedagogy, but how to integrate it into assignments and what we're already doing in class. So I think those are great opportunities for folks who want to learn more.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, you're
really
welcome.
Appreciate it, and for all the great work you do.
Thank you for the tea.
Us. No problem. If you'd like to learn more, talk more, be a guest, or have a cup of tea, please don't hesitate to get in touch.